rev up those fryers, cause I am sure hungry for one. Help! Help! My leg!
And back to the street you go.
What's up, everyone? Gojin the Makai Phantom approaching ya. So, you probably already know about the manga sequel to the Tokusatsu series, Kamen Rider W, which recently got an anime series adaptation. Try saying that twice as fast, you ape. I think most of us can agree it's been solid so far. Despite aiming for an adult demographic primarily, it still managed to keep the same tone. Actors for the characters, while different, are so good, in some ways, it's almost hard to tell. Every way, it's just a heartfelt adaptation. You can tell there is a lot of love for the original show put in. But with this greatness, there's always gonna be some dipshit journalist to bitch about something. Comic Book Resources is known for having some of the worst takes on media. Whether it be live action, animation, they just suck. What would they be complaining about now? Well, apparently this long-awaited sequel to Kamen Rider W is way too horny. Coming from this mentally challenged cum dumpster who makes most her money off the streets for a few pennies homeless people collected on the same f***ing road. Just look at her bio. Anybody want to guess she wrote that description to get in the next anime virgin's pants? I mean, I guess it would explain how this bitch got employed. Oh my god, I've never seen a 3D pussy before. Can I touch it? This newly airing Kamen Rider related anime, Fuuto Pi, shows promise, but also plenty of fan service that ultimately undermine the series. I'm sorry, if you think fan service can hurt a story if it makes sense, or at least works with the tone, you got issues. I know a lot of people take issue with this sort of thing, but they almost never have a rational reason for it, but titty's bad. It's pathetic and only tells me you're the least reliable source to review something. But who am I kidding? It's comic book we're looking at. They've always been shit. Although only one episode of Fuuto Pi has aired so far, the series has made a strong first impression, perhaps not for all the right reasons. Oh no, she's quoting her parents when they found her on the streets, holy shit! While the show has promise as a supernatural mystery, it's the fan service that takes center stage in its premise. First of all, do you even have experience with its live-action predecessor? Or does that not catch your attention because real people scary? Yes, the Dopant had many supernatural abilities, but that's the thing about them. The Dopants all have their own powers that makes them distinguishable. But what really caught my attention is this. Yeah, a fucking shot of a nipple. Is this bitch just pissed her husband beat off to this? Not his fault his girl literally been fucking the entire chess team. Give the poor guy a break, god damn. What took center stage with episode 1 was recapping what happened in the prior series for new viewers, while building up the mystery for what's to come later. Episode 1 also introduces the character Tokime, a self-proclaimed witch whose seemingly supernatural powers who is wreaking havoc around the city by seducing men and then making off with their money or possessions. I mean, that sounds a lot like this bitch's entire life story. No wonder she's fucking offended. Listed as a main character in the series, Tokime can be expected to be a mainstay of Fuuto Pi. Although, for viewers not familiar with the source material, it's not yet clear exactly what part she will play in future episodes. What is abundantly clear is Tokime's role as the resident fanservice character, as evidenced by the myriad of extreme close-up shots of her chest. The fanservice in this show is literally barely above that was offered in Kamen Rider W, which was a series aiming for all ages. Yes, it was still there with that magician girl they often use to their advantage, and for the women who watches, shots of that dude's ass nobody wanted to see. Oh, and don't get me started on him. His introduction is literally a shot of his ass like he's the fucking Terminator. Hell, I'd argue that's even more than slight nipple shots you got of Tokime, actually. Tokime might have bits of fan service to her character, but it makes sense. You literally said yourself she's a self-proclaimed witch who uses her charms to seduce males, which, being a detective drama, it added suspense to the mystery of crime. Not to mention, you're speaking like whenever she's on the camera, doesn't even go up to her face. We know, her boobs are present, and they were drawn large for horny purposes. But outside of a few close-ups, they didn't affect the quality of the show, nor were they the majority of her screen time. If you were always looking at them when she was talking, well, I'm sorry to tell you, that's your problem from your bizarre obsession with big breasts. This is a disappointingly lazy way to introduce any main character, but doubtably so in the case of Tokime, who should be a fascinating cast member in her own right, yet is reduced to little more than a sex object in every scene she's featured in. If the creators of the show, alongside its source material, wanted fan service implanted into the story, that isn't your right to judge. Well, it is, but it's also your right to look like a f***ing retard. This is not a lazy way to introduce a character like you so claim it is. The writers had to come up with a situation for why it's there. I'm seeing little argument here, but fan service bad, but failing to explain why it's bad. While she could potentially shine as an enigmatic femme fatale-esque persona, matching Shotaro's obsessive, hard-boiled detective act to see Tokime is given little in the way of characterization beyond a skimpy outfit and well-endowed bust. Unerringly zooms in on again and again if unsure of where else to look. Have you even watched the first episode, or were you too engrossed in Tokime's titties drooling, "Ugh, I wish those were mine. Maybe I can make $2. Oh my god, I'm gonna be rich." This was the first episode. It was introducing everything, which her character was intentionally made mysterious. Why do you think everyone suspected her? They knew very little about who she was other than she was caught with a group of corpses, inhuman abilities, and seemingly used her skimpy outfit to use men willing to fall for her. I could bring up what's been going on in later episodes or tell you to shut your mouth and read the source material, but this was before those occurred, and asking someone to read the source material to see what happens before watching the adaptation is kind of a tall order, as I even haven't read it yet. But based on build-up of the episode you're reviewing alone, you look fucking stupid. Not to mention if you watched Kamen Rider W before hopping into this, for being a seasonal anime, you'd have a better understanding of how the formula works. Generally, there's a main arc connecting each episode together while having subplots that last for about 3 parts to fully flesh out the story and characters. It's not that hard to figure out, god damn it. She was the red herring for someone who's destined to have a bigger role in the story. And if you couldn't tell, there was already a dynamic between her and Shotaro being put together. While not offensive, so much as plain childish, this does suggest the anime, although aimed primarily at adult men like its seinen manga counterpart, doesn't have any idea of how to approach sexuality in a mature way. Wow, such an in-depth explanation, guys. I might just chop my dick off and rethink my entire way of life at this point. It's time to become men, boys, because this broad said so, I guess. Rather than focus on other possible aspects of Tokime's character, the show has elected to home in on perhaps the only thing its creators could think of to make her appear suitably alluring and seductive: her breast. In doing so, Fuuto Pi not only does Tokime's character a disservice, but also undermines and distracts from what could be a compelling and even quite unique series. Holy shit, you'd think she never even seen a crime show in her lifetime. You know they only had 20 minutes, right? In doing such, they had to recap the prior show's events on how they became the 2-in-1 detective, a reintroduction to the older characters, the mystery of this particular arc, and establishing the existence of her. What you are mainly bitching about is nothing but a design choice and a few shots of the character you didn't like. She's supposed to be mysterious, and the current episodes only prove me right with her slowly growing relationship with Shotaro and Philip. If you knew anything about her, there's build-up. How do you not get that? It's an unfortunate way to start a show that seems to want to present itself as having the chops to pull off a relatively serious backstory, slick action scenes, and a decent American-inspired detective narrative. American-inspired? This is the exact style Kamen Rider W used. It's one of the reasons we appreciate it so much because it left that intact. How about watching the original show before hopping onto the sequel? Because that's exactly why you don't understand the format. Viewers will need to decide for themselves just how much unimaginative fan service they're willing to put up with along the way. But based on Fuuto Pi's premiere, tolerance levels will have to be high. Just like you when you typed up this stupid article after puffing smoke out of a gorilla's anal cavity. Fan service as a whole isn't a bad thing, and like the majority of stuff, it can and often is done right, even when very explicit. Which this very much isn't, and the screen time it gets outside of Tokime's character design is lower than the screen time Double gets per episode. Anyway, that god-awful article is finally over, but what do you expect? It's comic book. Expecting anything remotely decent from them is the equivalent of paying for a night with Amber Heard and expecting a marriage and children. All you're getting is shit. If there's anything to take from this, I'd say check out Kamen Rider W prior. Fuuto Pi does a solid job at reminding older viewers and informing newcomers what happened. But if you watch Double, you'll not only appreciate the actual fan service, by that I mean drawbacks to the original show, you'll already have a grip on who these people are, how the formula works, and more. Anyway, that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below, and if you enjoyed it, smash that like button, share it around, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications to keep up to date on all my future content. Also make sure to check me out on social media and alt tech. Links are in the description down below, alongside Anime Anteiku. They have been very helpful to the growth of this channel, and I cannot thank them enough. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.